No, you don't know now, nigga. So, bitch, you don't know now, nigga.
Welcome back to part 2 of our interview with Shar.
You know what's crazy is it goes totally against what I've always thought. And I always thought that it's fine until someone else finds out, till your friends find out about, you know, if you're dealing with a trans woman or something like that.
Oh,
and it totally goes against that because it's like, maybe it clearly wasn't fine if anyone else found out. It wasn't fine for him.
It's interesting that you bring that up because there was a guy that they just recently profiled. He killed a white trans woman in 2015 and he's in jail now. I think he's on death row, and someone just interviewed him and he openly admitted that what led to him killing her was that he hated himself for loving her.
That's why I don't deal with bi men.
He hated himself for being attracted to her.
Yeah, I get that.
And that's
like half my dating experience.
And that's what drove him to kill her. So it's very, and then like I said, on top of that, you know, black trans women are, quote unquote, I say this, you know, whatever, leading the race with trans murders. And I just don't want to be one of those names.
Right.
And so it does get very sticky because I know that no matter what the scenario is, in the unfortunate event that I am murdered at the hands of a man that I'm intimate with, I'm going to be instantly demonized in the media. I know that no matter what, he could have known, he could have met my mama, everybody know, he could have met y'all, he could have been sitting right here, I'm having this conversation in front of him right there. If he decided to say he didn't know, every blog, shade room, gossip, all the publications are going to say Shar was not being honest, and that's what led to her. So that's also what makes it scary because I know that I'm not in control of my narrative.
Right.
Like I am, but I'm not.
Now, are you familiar with the whole celebrities going after the trans women?
Oh yes.
Key?
You know what town we live in? Are you?
I do, and I do know that I do know certain celebrities that's what they go for. So being that you are kind of like, you know, out in social media, people know who you are. Do you ever get approached low key by these celebrities?
I have before. I've actually even went on a date when I first moved here. Oh yes. There was even one of.
Because you know they all share the same.
I don't. Now, one thing.
No, don't tell us who, but I'm saying tell us the story.
You know.
I'll just say there's this one guy who turned out to be extremely, in the long run, he turned out to be extremely problematic and ain't shit to the world, who was checking for Shar. But in fairness, I don't think he knew what time it was over here. If that makes
he was
sense.
in your inbox or like Instagram?
No, we met in person at an event. And he was interested. Upon me meeting him, when I extended my hand to shake it, he bent down and kissed my hand, and it was a wrap after that. So yes, I'm familiar with that culture here, but I also am familiar with like a lot of men. My issue with a lot of men is they want to enjoy trans women's bodies without the politics.
Yes.
And I'm not that bitch.
Okay.
You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't enjoy me and then be silent when the girls are being murdered. You can't enjoy me and then be radio silent when Trump is passing laws and introducing legislation that is anti-trans, anti-LGBT. You cannot do, and I get that there are certain stipulations with career and fan base and yada yada yada, but for me, you got to call somebody else.
Yeah.
Because I'm worth more than that.
Yeah.
That's just me, and that's just me.
I get it.
You cannot get away with that with me, and I feel like you teach people how to treat you.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you need to come out like we need to go on tour with TMZ and be like, hey, I'm dating Shar, a trans woman. But what I am saying is privately donate to the LGBT center. Then you know what I'm saying? Like you can't enjoy my body. I'm never giving my body to another man who does not understand my plight or who does not see the humanity or my womanhood, who just wants a thrill, a cheap thrill from something from page 17 he saw on Pornhub. I'm not your girl for that.
Yeah.
What kind of so have you had the bottom surgery?
She didn't have any.
I was about to say, not only do I not like discussing surgeries, I have not.
Just that surgery or anything you had done?
I have never had anything done.
Oh, wow.
To date. But
You're one of the lucky ones.
I am getting things done.
Okay, like the...
I'm not disclosing.
Some things will be done. And so my question is that like a taboo question for the trans community?
It is. And I believe that it is because it then shifts the narrative and it makes makes your transition all about what you can bring physically. Much like, what's your name again? Daebrian brought up with the ballroom community and the judging. I feel like it shifts to, what have you had done, instead of who are you as a person?
And then it becomes a whole nother layer of segregation in the community.
It becomes this laundry list of what did you have done? How does that work?
Then you get on a whole new level of being judged.
Yes.
Because now people are looking at, okay, well, who did her ass? And
yes.
Yeah.
And
why didn't she get this done?
That has happened to me. I was just at a party in December, and I stood up, and a cis woman, I call these microaggressions, asked me who did do my body. Now, I don't have a big butt. I'm not really hippie. I mean, I got a little something working on, but I was so insulted because she knows that I'm trans. We have mutual friends. We are not friends. We have mutual friends. And she just out the gate assumed that what I had was not natural, that I had to have gone under the knife. And so that damn near sent me
And
through
what was the conversation leading up to that? Like, it was
nothing. I stood up. We were at a party, and I stood up to get something, and she was sitting like right here. It was like couches, and she slapped my butt, and she was like, "Girl, who did that? Who in charge of that?"
Ooh, you
and I was like,
the gym.
honestly, all of this walk. I enjoy a walk, so I'm very Oprah Super Soul Sunday with my walk.
Yes. So I used to work at this doctor's office for a very short period of time, and at the doctor's office, I worked with a trans woman who I knew to be trans because I did my history on the ballroom scene, and she had been in the scene back in like the late 80s into the early 90s, and I was familiar with who she was. Now, she didn't know that I knew her tea, and I would never tell.
Right.
She was very much clockable, but everyone in the doctor's office believed her to be a woman, so fine.
Because women come in all different shapes and sizes.
Exactly, and that was totally fine. You
have your Kristen Chenoweth and you have your Wendy Williams.
Exactly.
Who are both cis women. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but
You have Nene Leakes, Wendy. These are large women.
Yeah.
They're bigger than me.
Yeah.
Wendy's 2 inches taller than me.
So with her working there and all that, there was a trans woman who I knew, who was a very good friend of mine, who came in. I think she was getting like microderm or something.
Okay.
She was doing something, and she came in, and me and her were talking like in the waiting room. We're just having a conversation. The trans woman that I worked with,
who was stealth.
Yeah,
she was stealth at the time. Yeah,
She says to me after me and the other trans woman had a conversation. She said, "Oh, I didn't know you knew." Let's just make up a name for the sake. Yeah, I didn't know you knew Jessica. She's a pretty drag queen, isn't she?
Oh.
So I say that to say, do you ever come across the, for lack of a better term, the
elitist,
or the
transphobic,
self-hating,
like discrimination between
how we have us gay men who come across other gay men and we're hating all day, not me, but hating all day long.
Yeah,
nothing.
A lot of that is rooted in respectability and heterosexual ideologies of what you should be. That is awful what she said.
Right.
But I do understand at a certain point, because I can't even say that had we been having this conversation 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I can't say that I'd be having this conversation with the mic in front of me, because I know a lot of girls who, I know as far as representation, a lot of girls who we saw reflected in the media had no choice but to be reflected into the media because they were quote unquote clocky. A lot of girls who quote unquote passed lived stealth, meaning no one knew their tea except for maybe their partner. These girls would get up and, if you were super quote unquote cis passing, you get up and you move to another city and start a new life, and no one knows your business, especially if you had surgeries done to assimilate to heterosexual society. So I don't know if that's rooted in that, by calling that woman a drag queen. I have come across respectability politics. I'm guilty of it. When I was first transitioning, I had to unlearn a lot of things. I had to, it really took for women like Janet Mock, women like Angelica Ross to check me, women like Shannon Lynn Parker to check me, because we're all in the same boat. I'm not special because I have a degree. I'm not special because I have certain, we are all looked at the exact same way. And at the time when I was younger, what I will say is I did not acknowledge sex work as a means of survival. And I did not acknowledge that as such because I had a friend the friend that I mentioned earlier who opted to go into sex work. My friend was working at being like a CNA or something.
Yeah.
And the quote unquote street girls called her and was like, girl, what? You make, $80 an hour. I mean, $80. Let's say you make $180 a day. I make that in an hour. And so she opted to quit her job and then turn to the streets. So what was embedded in my mind was y'all just doing this for attention and for male attention and a quick buck. And that's not about to be my legacy. That's not. So I had a lot of what we mentioned earlier, a lot of unlearning to do. And I realized that for a lot of girls who don't have access to certain resources, that is a means of survival, and that I was a victim of respectability politics, but I was also a product of my environment. Both of my parents were college educated and things, so I was a product of that environment. And that's not to say I was raised to look down on people, because I wasn't. It's just something that almost like kind of happened where I was in this elitist type. I felt like I had achieved something that not a lot of girls achieve, And so, and I've noticed that with a lot of gay men as well, as far as with academic accolades or housing situations, and so I think that's just toxic, and that's a total waste of time.
Are you still friends with your homegirl?
No, we actually ended up falling out, not because of that, but because we just literally throughout our journeys in womanhood, we became two totally different women where we had nothing in common anymore. We had nothing in common. My former friend is a girl who I still have love for, but she is someone who is gravely insecure. But I knew this prior to her transitioning. So she gets she gets all of her affirmations from the attention of men, which men get on my fucking nerves. So it's things like that. I don't need that. I work on interpersonal things, even though I do get my life. Don't get me wrong. But she solely depends on that. You can tell her she's beautiful all day long, but it's going to take for the right piece of trade to break his neck, and now she's the queen of the block. So we just ended up being two totally different women, and it still kind of breaks my heart because that was like my best friend. We came of age together.
Do you know people that still kind of keep you up to date with what she has going on?
No, I mean, I don't check. She's tried to reach out to me on Facebook and things like that, but I don't respond because I don't respond because when I'm done, I'm done. And I felt like we had been through within our friendship, because she's 2 years younger than me. So we met when I was maybe 18, she was 16, we went to high school together. And we had been through so much stuff together, memories that I cherish and also memories that I hate. And the last time, and I remember we had gotten into it when I had started my HRT, she was mad. She was mad. She had started transitioning that November, medically transitioning that November. I started that April, and she was not happy for me. And then the last time I saw her, she was living out here, and she had come to a house party because I lived in a house with the 3 gay men. She had come to one of my house parties, and this is as she was moving back to Chicago. And I often think about her because, she has a lot going on. But I just don't have any interest in having a relationship with her.
So where do you get your confidence from?
I get my confidence from, I really do have to affirm myself. I have Post-it notes on my bathroom mirror, Mary Jane. I do, because that came with it, but I've always been a confident person because fortunately in my situation, I've always been reaffirmed. And so I knew that I had my brain to rely on. If I wasn't feeling pretty, I knew that I had my brain. And my family, for the most part, even extended family, jumped on board. Coming out to my family for a second time was not easy for me. I wrote it in a matter of fact, I wrote it. I emailed them because I didn't want to talk about it, and I knew that was a harder pill to swallow because it's okay, now, the way that my parents explained it to me is for them back in 1988, when you find out that you're having a boy, inadvertently you have that boy's entire life planned out for him. As soon as you find, or a girl, as soon as you find out the sex of the baby that you're carrying, their entire life, whether you mean to or not, is planned out for them.
Wow.
And so to have that hard shift,
Yeah.
it was it's a transition for the whole family. I have 2 sisters that had to adjust.
Yeah.
Even though I'm the same person. I'm literally the same person, just with hair now and boobs.
Yeah.
I'm the same person, but it's still an adjustment. It is still an adjustment.
That makes a lot of sense. Even if, like, let's say if I decide that I want to go to the movies on this particular day, I have to follow through with that plan. So I can only imagine a parent having someone's life planned out entirely, and then there being that shift. That's a very good
And I told my mother that I would probably likely struggle with it, even being a trans woman myself.
Yeah.
If I met a man and we decided to start a family, and we have a girl, I said I would probably fall guilty of that too, because this is my baby girl.
Right.
And if one day she came to me and said, "Mom, that ain't what it is."
Yeah.
Wow.
And not saying that I would shun her. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
crazy.
Of
I'm
course
very
not. Yeah.
enlightened,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying that I would fall
Victim to that, because
Victim
you
to
have
that.
to unlearn all the things
Yeah.
that you learned that you wanted that kid to be, and especially if it's 20 years. It only takes me 20 minutes.
So particularly with your father, did you feel like there was any shame on his part, like that you're not carrying on the last name?
I wasn't expecting that question.
Trying to get my little journalist.
I think my father is okay now. Because I might, who knows? Like, for example, my last name is hyphenated. I won't say the hyphen, but the last name that I go by is my mother's maiden name, because that is the family that I'm closest to. I wasn't close to my dad's family.
Gotcha.
And so there are other people to carry on that name, but I know that my dad did struggle with that, because my dad, like I said, he was hyper masculine, west side of Chicago, oldest of 8, and so he has had to come to terms within these last few years. We've had a lot of conversations. We've fallen out. I mean, we've had normal interpersonal family type things that just happen. And so, and even one of my sisters, when I came out to my sister, because I made them proofread the email before I sent it to my parents.
Okay.
And one of my sisters wasn't fully on board.
Yeah.
One was like, "I'm here for you," but one was like, I don't know about this. And so it's been a learning experience, and like I said, a transition for everyone, even extended family. My mother is the youngest of 10, and everybody got kids.
Yeah.
So it's been like this reintroduction to things. But I'm fortunate that everybody is on the same page, and even if they're not, I just don't entertain. I don't have room for that. I have one aunt that gets on my damn nerves.
Mine too. I just have so many stories, but there is a woman that I go to for like my manicures, pedicures, and her.
Let me see this manicure.
It's a mess.
No referrals. No plug for her.
No, but I'll tell you where I go, and But anyway, so she's raising a trans daughter right now.
Okay, so
that's trying to go to be a boy.
A boy that's going
to girl.
So M to F. To F.
Yeah,
like he was right with saying daughter.
Yeah, yeah. Right. And so I was going to hire her son because she has 2 kids. Okay, I was going to hire her son at my job. I was going to hire him because he was looking for a job, and she had explained to me that he was going through a lot because. He told her one day.
Because of the sibling?
He told her one day, "Mom, I'm watching my brother turn into a girl right before my very eyes." These are 2 that were little boys that started out and they shared the same room together. Wow. And now one whole side of the room is, very girly and all of that. So she came to me one day doing my nails, and she just broke down crying to me while she was doing my nails, and she's just like, I support my baby, and I want my baby. She's going to be a girl. She's going to be the baddest girl that I know. Yeah. However, in supporting my baby, I find it now I have to be this crutch or this empowerment for my son, because my son is losing his mind watching his brother.
It really is a transition for the whole family.
But we don't think about it like that. Like I think we're kind of selfish, and we come out, we want people to accept us, but we don't know what kind of toll that takes.
And that's the thing. We never. Kind of shame the family I think we, and it goes back to what
that's where the work comes in. At we have to do the work.
Yeah, because we think that I think we as human beings, and especially human beings with complexities, we tend to think we are going through this. Yeah, not y'all. Yeah, exactly. Y'all don't have to live through this. Right. We are going through this.
You're absolutely right.
And then when the dust settles, we look around and we're like, oh my God,
you were going through
this too. And I know for my coming out, and I know from talking to my manicurist, what her child is going, what her children are going through. I'm like, wow, it's so much more than just me, you. I'm
it's
this,
a lot.
I'm going through this.
And whether you're trans or not, anything under the LGBT umbrella, depending on who you're coming out to, it's a lot to take on. So yeah.
So when you were transitioning, were you transitioning away from home, like, or were you visiting back and forth?
No, my first year, I did 1 year. I'm okay. I did 1 year at home. I started my medical transition at 25, and I moved to LA at 26.
Okay, because like when I came out, after I told my parents, I didn't visit home for 3 years.
Really?
Yeah. So it wasn't like an instant, like I got myself together.
I mean, but that's common. People move away and live their lives and then just deal with it, come what may. But for me, I did my first year at home, and I moved not because of a transition. I moved because it was time for me to move. I had hit a glass ceiling in Chicago, and I knew that in order to further my career, because that's all I was concerned about, and still am, I had to go to a bigger city.
Do you think it's more acceptable for society to accept trans men rather than trans women?
Yes.
And because why?
And that's not to say that trans men don't catch heat.
Yeah.
But trans women are, between the two, trans women are demonized. The whole bathroom discussion is centered around trans women. Right. No one was saying anything about trans men in the bathroom. And every time a controversial trans topic comes up, it's the demonization of trans women.
Do you think that's because women, from a societal standpoint of view, like even the discussion that we're having now about women in the Me Too movement, it's always, women are always considered second-class citizens to men.
Well,
and
maybe and a lot of people don't view trans women as men. And then on top of that, a lot of people do view trans women as men, which is problematic. And on top of that, we don't see, at least myself, I'm going to speak for myself, I don't see a lot of examples of trans men struggling as much as trans women, as far as with the sex work and things like that. So it is very different. And one could even argue it trickles down into society, as far as studs typically have an easier time than femme-presenting gay men. So,
are there any trans girls out there in the media that you think are a bad representation of the community?
Good question. Great question, baby.
Linda, look at Linda.
She had to shift her seat, by the way.
I'm actually asking particularly. I know I've watched tons of interviews with some trans people in the community, and everybody kind of talks about Sydney Starr, who they kind of say she's trashy, she's not a good representation. I'm saying what the people say. I'm not saying what I say.
No, I know. I get it.
They say she bangy, she ain't got no class, or what I'm saying.
Sydney Starr is from Chicago.
Yes, she is.
Do you know her?
Because I knew her from
I do not know her.
Have you met her?
Is that a Mariah Carey? I don't know her. Or do you really not know her? It was a hair toss wig. I don't know, and I still don't know her.
I have never met the woman. I do not know the woman.
Okay.
What I will say is, transness is a nuanced experience, much like blackness. How you may define your blackness may not be how the next black person defines their blackness. And there are a few girls trickled throughout the media whose views and experiences do not reflect mine or I don't agree with. Some of the stuff that comes out of their mouth, I'm like, really, sis? But that's their experience. But I am cognizant of the platform of, okay, you're on the Breakfast Club, which is for example, the #1 rated urban radio station. So people are consuming what you have to offer and running with it as gospel. That's not necessarily your responsibility because you're speaking from your standpoint. But there are some girls peppered out in the media that I'm like,
Do you think everyone in the trans community who has that platform has some type of social responsibility to those who are coming up into the youth?
That is a fantastic fucking question. Y'all trying to get me. Woo! that
Do we have a social responsibility because?
Well, I mean, I do believe that.
I was just
believe
about to
we
say,
all
I
have
believe-
a social
we all do.
responsibility.
I believe anyone with a hot mic in front of them has some sort of and when I say responsibility, granted, I don't mean carrying the burdens of the entire community.
Right.
I mean broadening your horizons. Tell your perspective, hold true to your values, tell your story, but also be aware that there are a myriad of others out there. And I feel like you should factor those in.
Right.
Like, sex work is not my ministry, but I'm not on you all's platform demeaning girls who do choose to engage in that line of work. They're still like I said, they're still valuable, they're still worthy, they're still human beings. And so I do believe that there is a certain responsibility, but you can only go off of what you know. And not everybody likes things like Shar. Not everybody likes to read and research and things. So, and some people get booked solely because of that, because they know that they're going to be a riot or entertaining or things like that.
Do you think people look down on, let me see if I can phrase it right, but do you think the women who did choose a different path from you look down on you for the path that you chose? Let's say the sex worker looks down on you for taking the other route in the education, but not everybody does that.
I was going to say, no. I've never been met with any of that. I have been met with weird energy, though. And I say weird energy like, okay, I don't know how to read. I don't know how to pick up on this girl. But I don't think that I haven't come across anyone who looks down on me, honestly. And I've shared space with girls from all different walks of life. But like I said, it has been like a hesitation.
But when I say look down,
I don't bite.
When I say look down, I mean, do they consider you to be elitist? Do they think that you think you're pretentious and think you're too much?
I do think, and that's something that's out of my control, because a lot of that is projecting. They're projecting their own whatever shit they got going on. They're projecting onto me, because oftentimes, I mean, I am a social Sally. Tavarus can tell you that I talk a lot, but in certain arenas, certain places, I'm radio silent. Sometimes I'm just sitting back, and people will project like, oh, she must be a bitch. She must think she all that. And that is not the case. I'm literally just minding my business. I don't know anybody in this room. I'm just minding my business. And so, but I haven't come across a lot of that, thankfully. A lot of girls do reach out. I get a lot of Facebook messages, Insta DMs, just like little advice, like, I'm trying to move to a different city. Do you have any tips? Like from younger girls. Never any of my peers, though. But like I said, I have friends from all different walks of life who have all different types of stories, and I'm open to that. Like I said, I'm an introspective person. I know who Shar is, and I think that helps with me navigating certain conversations with certain girls, because my foundation is laid and it can't be shaken. I know who I am, but let me know who you are. And just because we might come from opposite ends of the track does not mean that we can't have fun and have a good time. And
I feel like we're soul sisters.
As confident as you are, have you ever in recent memory had a situation where you just felt like, I wish this wasn't my experience?
Yes. Oftentimes. I mean, I'm happy to be Shar. I'm happy to be
That's a good question.
I'm happy to be who I am and where I'm at. But I'm just like everybody else. I am a confident woman. Yes.
But you're human.
But I do experience pockets of insecurity. I really do. And I've been very open and transparent about that. Now, the internet won't know every single time. But I will talk about it just to kind of reaffirm everyone that, hey, I'm just like you. Sometimes I look in the mirror and I don't like what I see. Sometimes I know that with dating, that might be why I stay away from it, because oftentimes my dating experiences have led me back to not hating myself, but wishing I was other. Like, I'm like, oh, I know if I had this operation, or I know if I was born this way, that this wouldn't happen. And so there are certain instances where I'm not as confident. There are certain instances where insecurities take a front row seat, and I have to just work through that, because I realize that I have to deal with the cards that I'm dealt. Nothing's going to change. And even if I do have the surgeries that I want and things like that, I'm still going to be upfront with who I am, because it's gonna come out eventually. So why even build a relationship or any type of interaction on a hill of lies?
Yeah.
But I think, like I said, and I know for me, journaling has helped a lot. Y'all know I talk about journaling all the fucking time, and not even every day, because that's what ran me.
Just every other day.
Yeah.
No, that's what ran me away from journaling. It was like this programming, like you have to write every day. You don't.
Yeah.
I write when I feel compelled to write.
Yeah.
And so that's one of my biggest coping things for me, because literally, like I said, I have to work with the cards that I'm dealt.
You are truly an introvert, and as a fellow introvert, I want to say, like,
You think I'm an introvert?
not an introvert. You're very introspective. Wrong intro word, right? You are truly introspective, and as someone who's also introspective, one of the things that has always helped me is, like, I am the sum of my experiences, and I can't imagine who I would be without one of those experiences.
Yes.
So I never want to take one of those experiences away, because if I remove that one brick, the whole thing may crumble.
Yes.
And so that's just what
I've heard it compared to like a Jenga block.
That's very good. Yeah.
If you remove, something, if you remove any part of your journey, then the whole house may come toppling down.
Wow.
So everything that has happened has served its purpose. That doesn't mean that it makes life any easier or any more exciting. Because I have my days that I don't even want to get out of the bed. Yeah. Like, I've battled depression. When the depression hits, it hits where I can't eat. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to talk to anyone. I will turn off my phone. I don't want to see anything. And so it's a lot. It's definitely a lot to deal with, especially with the visual aspect of Instagram, and everybody got these fucking the same body, and now I want it. And so it takes a lot to just really appreciate yourself for who you are.
So just 2 more questions before we wrap up and play a quick game with you.
Okay.
The first question is, what do you do when people stare?
I typically don't have that issue.
I was gonna say I couldn't see people staring.
I remember one time going to Burger King, and I was with my nephew, and there was a guy, I guess, but he had like a ponytail and some nails, and my nephew was young, and he was like, "Is that a boy or a girl?" in front of him.
I mean, that happened to me prior to transitioning.
That happens to me now.
I laugh it off. I mean, with kids, it's just kids. But with people staring, honestly, and with a lot of things for me, I don't feed into that. Because I don't know what you're staring. I don't know if you're staring in admiration. I don't know if you're staring in hate. And I also don't look at that as my business. Like, I don't feed into that. I'm not the type of girl that's going to be like, what you staring at?
Or just be like, hey, and be extra friendly.
Or you're just so secure of who it is that you are.
Because guess what?
The outside stuff is just white noise.
Guess what? Saying, hey, I don't owe you a hey. You staring at me.
I mean, you want to speak?
Right. Do you want to speak? I don't owe you anything. So, I've never dealt with, even prior to transitioning, I think because a lot of people just assumed that I was a woman. And I'm not saying that I was just, just the fishiest girl. But a lot of people did, based off, like, I think that I got my first internship in college off of the strength of them thinking that I was a woman.
Okay.
It was a newsroom, the KOCO, the ABC affiliate of Oklahoma City. And I think that they didn't clock that I was not female until halfway into my internship. And
when did you first feel passable? In your opinion?
I can't say. I hate that word. But
what is the appropriate term? Or not the appropriate term?
There is no appropriate term. I just am.
Okay.
I just am.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I just am. So for me, I knew that my inflection and my voice and things like that. And so the EP at the time, his name, that's executive producer, his name was Derek, and I interviewed with Derek and everything. And I think that Derek, because in college I had a fade, but it was blonde.
Okay.
So, but I wore makeup. And I think that Derek, and I didn't wear a bra. I also didn't have boobs though, because I was thin. Like I was lean. And I think that Derek just assumed that I was a woman. I just do not.
You was giving Kelly Rowland tease.
I just do not think that I would have gotten that internship if they knew that I was a gender non-conforming, flamboyant, non-woman.
Speaking of, so like in terms of getting jobs, is like how hard is it for a trans woman to get a job, and is it something that you disclose or you think they should disclose, or like what's that process?
For me,
like?
it's something that in the past was nerve-wracking. Prior to transitioning and when I had freshly transitioned, because when I had freshly transitioned, my name change was new, so I don't know who to put down for reference if you get to calling people. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying.
Keeping it real.
I'm keeping it real. And so prior prior to transitioning, like my work experience in my early 20s was cosmetic.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any issue because I was working the makeup I was working Sephora. I was working Macy's, Estee Lauder,
Why do I
Laura
feel like
Mercier.
Sephora is the go-to?
It is.
Mac would be the
Mac is the
go-to.
I feel like Sephora is the go-to for the girls because they train you up and send you to school and all of that.
Mac
stuff.
is.
Sephora send you to school?
Well, not send you to school, but they do a whole training.
But what I'm saying, it's easier for people who are LGBT identified, especially who are non-conforming, to go into hair and makeup and things like that. And I liked makeup. I was learning things about my face, and I was getting exclusive stuff. I remember I got Kim Kardashian's first fragrance before it was open to the public. Like, I felt like I was the shit. But so that was like the start to my job. So I never really had much anxiety around that. It wasn't until I started working in more corporate areas that I'm like, okay, I don't know. But I think that it's still in a lot of instances, even to this day, I feel like people hire me and then the transness doesn't come out till later. Or now I have about 2 pages of Google with me doing things like this where, you know, and I feel like some people have hired me strictly because like it's never come up because it's not appropriate and it's not pertinent to the job.
Right.
Exactly.
So don't bring that up to me because I'll be in HR.
Okay.
And
EO with my name on the top of this.
But I do think that certain people might have hired me strictly because of that, because I know how Hollywood works, and you kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We have a Negro and a trans woman.
Right. Yeah.
Look who we've hired, you know. And then other people I think have found out along the way, because I have been in instances where I thought that people knew, and then women will come up to me to see if I have pads or tampons and things like that, like. Or I'm in the doctor's office
you carry
and they're like,
just to be like,
when was your last period? Have you ever been pregnant? And I'm like, So it's certain instances where I'm in new situations where I'm like, okay, I don't look at myself as because like I said, with my you trying to get on the mic, boo? With my insecurities that I deal with, I don't look at myself like people tell me that all the time. Like, Shar, you know, if I wasn't like a gay man who knows trans women, I wouldn't clock. And I look at myself as so clocky, and I think I look at myself that way because I am 5'9". I have blonde hair. I've had the same aesthetic for years, and I have a vibration. Yes, and so I feel like it is very telling, but to a lot of people, it is not.
It's definitely not. Do you think there is like a segregation in the trans community? I don't know if I asked this question already. Between people who are, let's say, for lack of a better word, passable versus non-passable?
There is, from what I've observed, yes.
Oh,
that's just like
amongst certain girls. But I'm not that girl because I'm fighting for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
then in the gay community, do you think like the gays? What has been your experience with gays and transsexuals, or gays and trans women?
Ooh, that's a good question, because a lot of people do not think. I've come across some of the most transphobic people that I've come across have been gay men.
Yes.
Who will throw in your face, the first argument will throw in your face the most transphobic, hurtful stuff. Not from what I've experienced, but from what I've seen. I know that for me, there's been, for whatever reason, a disconnect between me and white gay men. I try to play nice, but they're just so condescending in me. And I'm not saying all of them. It's just been a thing since I've been in Hollywood. I've come across pleasant white gay men, but I've come across a few rotten ones too. Black gay men, for me, in my experience, there have been some that have worked overtime to try to invalidate my womanhood, or oh my God, don't let a man be talking to me who
they love.
Oh my God!
You know what's sad to me is
oh my, where's my cigarette? I don't even smoke.
The trans community, and more specifically trans women, are the reason why we have so many gay rights.
Oh, I was thinking the exact same thing.
I watched the Marsha P.
Marsha P. Johnson
story on
and
Netflix.
Sylvia Rivera.
Yeah, and they were like the mothers of our
mothers of the gay liberation movement. And ironically, to make this even more full circle, when I first met Janet Mock in January of 2012, the seminar that she was speaking on at Chicago State was about the Stonewall riots.
Wow.
That's how I learned about them. I had no idea about the Stonewall riots until Janet introduced them to me.
And that's what is shocking to me, and even looking back, because I was always, and I'm sure they as well, we were always kind of brought up in there's the gays and then there's the trans, and there was, they were separate and we were different, and it's just shocking that it's history repeating itself over and over. They knocked them in the past.
No, everybody, for the most part, people have been pleasant. But I'm saying I've had my fair share of rotten apples within the LGBT umbrella. Lesbians haven't really been mean to me, but gay men, there have been gay men who have.
But they've been mean to us.
Yeah. So mean for no reason. What's wrong?
I mean, honestly, they've been mean to me too. So, just putting that out there.
We all have our hang-ups. And,
I've never tried to be mean. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't have the energy to.
So, what advice would you give to your 15-year-old self transitioning and to someone just coming into the lifestyle?
I guess I would tell 15-year-old Shar, girl, you are not crazy. And 15-year-old Shar did all that she could at the time because there was not as much accessible knowledge about transness at the time. And then on top of that, you need a lot of parent stuff. Like I know girls who started medically transitioning at 15, Janet being one of them.
Yeah.
And so 14, 15. And so and the beauty of, not to derail, but the beauty of my high school is we had GSA meetings, Gay Straight Alliance meetings.
Oh, really?
So, yes. Wow. And so it was these things that we would get pulled out. We would get pulled out of class and go to these meetings. And that's how I learned a lot about people's experience because I lived in a bubble. I'm not going to even lie, y'all. I lived in a bubble. So to sit across from a lesbian who would say, I tried coming out to my grandma and she kicked me out.
Yeah.
That I had never been exposed, never heard of anything like that. This is me at 15.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to receive that. Like it's just been a lot. But I would just say, you're not crazy. I think that would be the overarching thing. You are not crazy. I know you don't have access to certain things, but what you feel is valid, and it'll all make sense later, girl. Hang in there. And to anybody now, y'all ain't got no excuse because Google is free and accessible. And in your back pocket, if you got a phone, all it takes is to Google your local LGBT center or resource center, and you can get that ball rolling. But I would emphasize a lot of soul searching because leading a life of transness is not for the faint at heart.
Right.
Like I've mentioned earlier, it is not all hair, makeup, and I'm not saying, because a lot of people try to combat, trans women aren't women because it takes more to be a woman than throwing on a wig and da-da-da. And that's not my experience in womanhood. My womanhood is so much more deeper than a physical, and I won't let you diminish it or whittle it down to strictly physical attributes. All of this shit could be removed and I'd still be a woman. And
more woman than you.
Right. Well, we all experience womanhood in different ways, just like a lot of men experience manhood in different ways.
Preach.
And so that's what I would tell anybody who is stepping into themselves. Be wary. Do not let the influence of others around you or the time that you got up in gigs for Halloween influence your transition. Because once you're in, you're in.
Yeah.
Amen.
So before we get out of here, we want to just play a quick little game of questions. We want you to tell us the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the question.
It's going to be 20, right?
Yeah, 20 questions. Go ahead,
Nice.
Oh, I'm going to go first?
Yes.
What's your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure is eating good food and watching television.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Speaking of eating, have you ever ate man cakes?
Never.
Okay, do you ever role play?
Role play? I've never role played.
Never role play?
No.
Ever swim in the lady pond?
I have swim in the lady pond.
You have swum in the lady pond. Okay. Last shady text.
Oh. I don't know. I may have to look for that one. I don't know.
It was that long ago, sure?
No, I talked to one of my girlfriends earlier today, and she's having problems with one of her girlfriends, and I let her know. It was more so shade about the other girl coming to me. I just was like, well, girl, I didn't fool with her to begin with, so Godspeed.
And ever been recorded while doing the dirty deed?
I have.
Yes, God Nelson, girl.
Sorry, nasty.
I have.
Yes, me too.
All right, mine are How do you describe your style, your personal style?
Like my clothes, like aesthetically. I would describe my style, well, not tonight. I would describe my style glamorous and just old school. Like I'm a hair, nails, makeup, fragrance girl. I'm not a tomboy, just glam. Okay. Glam. I like. That's how I describe it.
Okay.
Casual chic.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I like athleisure. Yeah. And I love a stiletto.
That is the second time I've heard that term today.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
And I like a stiletto. I'm not really big on... you won't catch me in line for the Jordans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who is your celebrity role model?
Oh, God, there's so many. Oprah Winfrey, Star Jones, Beyonce.
SB.
Wendy Williams. There's so many. There's a few.
I love Wendy, too.
Wendy's good. She's a good journalist. Mess aside, she's good at what she does.
Yeah. I feel like I know the answer to this, but I wrote it prior to meeting you.
Okay.
Have you ever walked a wall?
I have done. You know what? I went to a mini ball.
Okay.
Back in 2009. And that's where I first met Amaya Scott. She was in Chicago judging. And I was supposed to walk, but I did not. I chickened out.
Okay.
I really did chicken because I was scared. It's something about the judgment of it all. And I was walking 007. I don't belong to any Miss Rahi or Chanel or anything like that. It just gave me a lot of anxiety.
Okay. My last one is fuck, marry, kill.
Oh, God.
Laverne Cox. Chastity Bono. Caitlyn Jenner.
Come on, God!
Let me correct. It's Chaz Bono.
I'm sorry, Chaz Bono.
It's okay. Fuck, marry, kill. Okay.
Baby.
Kill Caitlyn.
Off with her head.
First thing, come on.
Fuck Chaz, marry Laverne.
Oh, okay. Well, are you a learner or a teacher?
I'm both.
The last thing you asked God for?
Ooh, peace of mind.
Last thing you cried about?
Last thing I cried about, it was two things. I lost a friend that I came of age with to senseless gun violence in Chicago, and that same day negotiations fell through for a job opportunity. I was trying to get my Monique on, and it flopped.
Most romantic thing a guy's ever done for you?
Most romantic thing a guy has ever done for me was take me out on a nice date in Marina Del Rey when I got in his car, which was a custom Lexus. Yes. He had a gift in the passenger seat for me that I chose not to open until I got home on purpose because I didn't want to cry. We went on a nice date, and then afterwards we went to his cousin's hookah bar, and then he dropped me back off at home, and then when I got home I unwrapped the gift, and it was a box set of my favorite fragrance, which I had told him about months ago on the phone. That he remembered. And had it professionally wrapped in burgundy bow, white wrapping paper with the burgundy bow.
What's your go-to porn category?
I'm not really a porn girl, but I do. Let me see. What type of porn do I enjoy?
Midget porn.
Oh no. I'd like to say I enjoy watching men pleasure themselves.
Okay. Gay porn.
No.
Oh, just masturbation.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you make eye contact while giving head?
Oh my God.
That's Rated Ma, baby.
Oh my.
Welcome to the show.
Oh my God. You know what? Let me take a sip of my Tito's vodka and cranberry.
I don't even know if I make eye contact.
I make eye contact, but
I will look up occasionally.
I was about to say maybe
don't look at me.
Who's trying to stare into pubes the whole time?
I mean, all right. What's the question?
I like to take your soul with me.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, God.
Eye contact, I can get mine.
That's what I'm coming. Your soul is mine.
You can't go to sleep without thinking about me.
What's a question you wish people would ask you more?
That's a good question.
How are you?
Yes. Instead of what do you do?
How are you?
How are you today?
And final, would you ever be a rich man's side chick?
Would I ever be a rich man's side chick? Because I don't. I believe that depends on the circumstance. I don't believe in being a side chick because I really do believe that you can't win when you play dirty.
Yes,
that's what Nene
come
said.
on, Nene.
And because I want a monogamous relationship, I don't want to put that mess out there. If there were, I would say I would be a rich man's side chick if he were separated from his wife.
And you wouldn't be this hot.
Yes, I would, because they're still married.
Oh,
ding,
shit.
ding, ding. And yes, that's the only way. You cannot still be living with your wife and putting on this front of this big happy family.
I heard somebody say
and have me in your back pocket.
I would never break up a happy home, but I definitely do a home invasion.
So I would do that. Because guess what? Someone's going to invade their home when they think they're happy. That's just what I believe.
Sometimes the home.
How you get them is how you lose them.
Yeah.
Well,
I
okay.
firmly
Sometimes
believe
you
that.
keep the home happy. Maybe they're not getting something at home
Now that is true
that they
because
can be getting with you. And
I have learned that
Come on,
certain
Olivia.
marriages have certain stipulations. I remember a professor came to me my senior year of undergrad. We were in a hotel, in an elevator. I said a hotel. She invited me to one. We were in an elevator of the broadcast building, headed up to the 3rd floor. She was my broadcast law professor, and she propositioned me for a threesome with her boyfriend. It was It was his birthday, and I was shook and disgusted.
Wow.
God, I hope she's not listening.
But I wouldn't care if she was. That's in my past.
Yes.
But I know that certain marriages, like I talk to people who people have, especially in this wacky town.
Definitely.
There are tons of stipulations and hall passes and things like that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, in my personal, the way Shar envisions her relationship, I don't need any extra side. There will be no Becky's with the good hair.
Yes.
Because I ain't making an album about you. I'm headed down to the municipal building and filing a
Well, on that note, it has been a pleasure, Miss Shar. Thank you for coming through and educating
and
us.
talking too much.
Not talking just
this
enough.
was so lovely, though.
We love it.
Next time we're gonna give you some more vodka.
No.
This was so lovely, so
I feel like this is
informative,
going to
so
come back to
educational.
haunt me.
Yeah.
I don't think it will. I think this was a very teachable moment, not just for us at the table, but for everybody that's listening. This was a good moment.
And I definitely learned a lot, and I appreciate your honesty. You know, there's you kind of made a great way out of what a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
In a sense, there's a lot of people that go a whole different route, and I'm just grateful that I got to meet you, and you know,
I feel the same
I feel like
way.
I can take something back to somebody that I know.
Yeah, and I just feel like I learned so much about myself that I see in you, and then when you say it, I realize like, oh, that's me.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I've had so many aha moments. You're like my Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah. There was a
Or
lot
my
learned.
spirit animal.
There was
I don't
definitely a
know.
lot learned, and I appreciate
Thank you.
doing
I'm
that.
glad I was able to provide a different perspective because I know that you all have had your individual interactions with trans women, and we are not a monolith. Much like black gay men are not a monolith.
Exactly.
Everybody has their own nuanced, specific story.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you tune in next week. Like, comment, subscribe to the Rated MA Podcast YouTube channel. Go ahead, Shar.
And if you all would like to, I guess, talk to me, I'm Shar Says So on everything.
At Shar Says So.
That's all S's.
It'll be in the description box. Drop down, comment, like, share,
Yeah,
subscribe.
you can tweet me, Instagram.
Yes. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.